Hi. I'm Arth. Wait, did I cover AdMech yet? Oh, hey, I didn't. That's neat. Someone's gonna get mad about this. But hi, hello, it's me, here to go on some long, uncomfortable rant about a topic I think is worth dissecting and discussing. To get into a preamble nice and proper, I've mentioned it before, but as long as I could remember, I've always enjoyed being afraid. The idea is a bit pervasive in my mind, where I will actively seek out media and circumstances that, within my control, can provide me with a degree of some kind of shock or fear or adrenaline to some sort. It's gotta also be manageable and reasonable to acquire, and not have a high potential of me dying horribly, but what do I mean by this? I love horror movies. I love horror games played in the dark in the middle of the night. I have a comprehensive historical knowledge base of both horror gaming and movie history, all the way from the early 40s to about 1999, because I just kind of stopped caring after that. But because of that, I seek out new movies and games to play from time to time, but it also manifests in mildly concerning behavior. You know, sometimes when you're biking downhill on a dark night, you just close your eyes to feel a bit of fear. It's a primordial concept, that. Something we can all relate to. But not many people enjoy it. So I suppose it's not something we can get united in. I will continue to say that in 40K there is a lot of concepts that I think are the grounds for good horror, but are mishandled. Enslavers are amazing body horror. The Ghoul Stars are such fun, eldritch nonsense that I genuinely think they may be my favorite topic in the 40K setting. Now, I'll let you know what I think is actually the most horrifying thing in 40K in a second, but before I do, I just want to thank my channel members for supporting me. You all have provided me the means to get this work done and be rewarded for it, so from the bottom of my heart, I thank you all. And if you want to support me as well as gain access to additional content, then become a channel member today. So what is the scariest thing in 40K? There is a lot of topics I think could fit the bill, but I think the scariest thing in Warhammer 40K or any Warhammer property is always going to be the Dark Mechanicum, which a lot of you would nod and say, oh, I get it, but I don't think the sheer horror of what these entities represent is easily conveyed to all of you. So a little background to this. Basically, who are the Dark Mechanicum and why are they not called the Dark Mechanicus, like, you know, the Adeptus Mechanicus? Because during the early days of the Horus Heresy, the Fabricator General of Mars, aka the leader of what was then a separatist faction of the Imperium known as the Mechanicum, sided with Horus Lupercal. This is big because, well, the Mechanicum back then still occupied the same niche that the Mechanicus does today, where they give tech, armor, and most importantly, weapons to the individuals in need that they work with. Kelbor Hal, the man in question, was of a certain mindset, and we'll expand upon that in a second. But see, on Mars at the time, there wasn't a centralized truth or set of beliefs that occupied the minds of its residents. See, due to the separation between Mechanicum and the Imperium of Mankind, there wasn't this imperial truth permanently affixed to them where they didn't have any form of superstition. So the levels of superstition varied between they believed that the Emperor of Mankind was the Omnissiah descended upon Earth and was there as an envoy to the machine god, all the way down to actual logical scientists who did adopt the imperial truth as the main set of beliefs that they would incorporate. Some believed that machines had spirits and some did not. There was this idea that science was going to prevail, but some people believed that science was an affront to the machine god, and it ended with a lot of tension between Night Houses, Titan Legios, and of course, the different manufactorums of Mars. This exploded when Kelbor Hal and another individual by the name of Regulus infected the data flow of Mars with something referred to as the scrap code. It was essentially this demonic computer virus that would actually destroy and or take control of machines in the local area. It caused reactors to overload, it caused so many other issues to pop up, but it was sealed off from some of the other members who had different means of intercepting data flows. Most of Mars, following this, was lost to a civil war that erupted between the individuals who were affected by the scrap code and the individuals who willingly took it in. There was a lot of the Mechanicum that ended up being evacuated, but most of them ended up dying if they didn't fall in with Kalbar Hal and the Dark Mechanicum. The ones who ended up going back to Terra ended up getting absorbed into the Imperium and became one of its Adepta, the Adeptus Mechanicus. One of the individuals who was taken there ended up becoming the new Fabricator General, and Kalbar Hal ended up being disavowed, and so on and so forth. But that's kind of the gist of how there was this separation. Knowing that, you could think that the Dark Mechanicum are just the evil versions of the Mechanicus, and from a reductionist point of view, you'd be right. But the point to think about here is that, as I mentioned, there were a bunch of mentalities on Mars before this schism, and the one that was the most pervasive in the Dark Mechanicum, and the one that separated them from the Mechanicus, is that the Dark Mechanicum viewed humanity with disdain and disgust. They saw emotions as weakness, and not only did they believe in the core concept of the Mechanicus, which is the flesh is weak, they believe that even through improvement, it's not good. You shouldn't have any flesh whatsoever. You should replace it as quickly as possible. Not improve upon it, change it. Get rid of it. They viewed humanity as nothing more than a nuisance. They saw machines and all things adjacent to them as tools to get what they needed done, which led to them having a kind of no-nonsense approach to experimentation and the construction of war machines. Not following where this is going? Okay, let's break it down even more. Being captured by a Dark Eldar, or Drukhari, is horrible because you have this fear of being tortured forever for the pleasure and entertainment of others. Now, you might be released on a whim, or you might just be executed for no reason just to make someone laugh. But being captured by the Dark Mechanicum is, although the same end result, is a completely different level of fear and horror. It is essentially the same thing. You will be tortured in a way that you would probably be better off not arriving alive, if you catch my drift, but with this added caveat that you are being collected simply for parts. If they do not need you, they will not take you. They will leave you where you are, alive, dead, so on and so forth. But say one of the machines has a broken piece of cabling, and due to the most recent research they had, they realized that the best and most long-lastingly efficient way to fix it is to steal the ligaments and tendons in the arms and legs of a standard human of about 6 feet in height. So they start to round up these individuals. They take those tendons and rewire those machines and use them for spare parts. Then they would use your muscular tissue to reinforce synthetic slave workers like dark servitors or just Skitari that needed the tensile strength of a human muscle. Maybe even use your skin to re-flesh one of the individuals that might have lost something due to an accident. Your bones would be used to reinforce organic weapons of war, being support struts, or even just as decoration for a shock unit of some sort decorated with skulls. The horror of the Dark Mechanicum is cold. It is detached. It has the feeling of you are literally just another part of the machine and completely replaceable. It is dehumanizing, and that is why I think I resonate with this kind of horror. See, the thing that scares me the most is a specific kind of irreversible body horror that is related to slowly losing yourself. It's why my favorite movie of all time is John Carpenter's The Thing. And my favorite fan theory about John Carpenter's The Thing is if you are infected with this thing and you've been assimilated, you don't know. So you just act in accordance with how you feel is correct. And that kind of loss of self is very powerful to me. But a good example of what I'm talking about in 40K can be found in Dead Sky Black Sun, where there is a subfaction of the Dark Mechanicum that works for the Iron Warriors under Hanzu's control, known as the Savage Morticians. They are the ones that invented that funky machine that I can't fully explain or talk about because I got demonetized the last time I said anything about it. So yeah, if you don't know it, just watch that video. It is interesting that the creation of the Munculaba is actually attributed to the Iron Warriors when in fact the people who made it were the Savage Morticians, who are just absolutely horrible. A more fleshy version of the Dark Mechanicum by making more Frankenstein-y style monsters rather than robot atrocities, but I digress. This again does also highlight the depersonalization of the faction, when in the book one of their servants had his neck snapped, and it didn't do much other than just make him laugh a little bit and go, oh dang it, I guess it's time to get a new vertebrae. The loss of self, the lack of care, the apathy that comes with this faction is one of the reasons I find them so interesting as a whole. There is a lot of good horror in the setting, but I find the Dark Mechanicum is every fear you've ever had about a hospital lumped into one faction. They are why it's mandatory for all doctors and scientists taking their university courses to regularly take ethics and morality courses, because without ethics or morality, science just becomes what the Dark Mechanicum inevitably became, which is a fun idea. I love that 40k fiction expands on these kinds of topics and then pushes them to an extreme that is not really seen or done in other fictitious series. It's why I come back, because there is some very distinctly interesting 40k concepts that I will never see in anything else. But that might just be me gushing over the fact that I still really love the movie Virus from the 90s, because the Dark Mechanicum has a very similar aesthetic to the creatures that were in that film, and I adore that obscure gem. So, with that all in mind, what do you think of the Dark Mechanicum? Cool? Not cool? Agree with me that they are the most horrifying faction in the series? Or if you disagree, let me know what you think is scarier in the comments, and if you have sources, I'll definitely check them out because I like discussing horror concepts. I've been dabbling with Warhammer horror, like the specific brand they're trying to push, just to kind of see if it's worth its salt, and I've had a lot of mixed results leaning towards negative. I haven't really enjoyed them as much as I could have, but I'm always down to be proven wrong. Also, remember to like and subscribe, as it helps the channel stay afloat, especially in these dark times when YouTube seems to be viciously demonetizing everything I put up, which... But once again, thanks for watching, and till next time, remember that there is a good chance that the Dark Mechanicum is probably becoming a faction in this edition, so deal with whatever ends up on the tabletop then, I guess. Okay, bye!